Our story begins at the end of Godfall, a pantheon of gods butchered and a god home destroyed. It begins with nothing but an empty world full of problems. It's honestly hard to judge a game like this because when a game is this cohesive, it becomes almost perfect. That means every aspect of the game is raised to the same excellent level. Every aspect of the game has a seamless gap between them. And when this happens, the flow of the game is uninterrupted, and the game only gets better. But if we look at the history of God of War, this flow is not consistent. We see a very different theme. Kratos is still fighting gods, but it's a different pantheon.
I know you're a god. Not of this realm, but there's no mistaking it.
And that has been their theme for the past 3 games. And somehow they changed the whole theme of the franchise. That's a very rare thing to happen, and it's a very risky thing to do. This whole conversion from Greek mythology to Norse mythology does come with its own issues. A connection has to be made between them, but there were no foundations laid before. And if a connection like that is going to happen, then that takes in-game time, right? So part of the story should be about this mythological connection, and that means there needs to be another storyline that presents itself as the core storyline of the game. You have to somehow connect these 2 mythologies while giving the game a story of its own. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work with diminishing returns. So what did Santa Monica Studios do? They just didn't. They didn't connect the mythologies. There was no explanation, no lore, and nobody knew if they were playing the same God of War game.
Stay calm, boy!
I am! This is great!
It speaks?
Yeah! Mom said he's friendly!
What does it say?
I don't know!
So the whole story begins with a lot of questions. But they choose to ignore these questions and they introduce us into an empty world full of problems. The first and foremost problem being the father and the son.
Come on then.
You want me to hit?
I want you to try.
Ow! What are you...
Try again.
Why are you doing that?
Too slow. Try again.
Cut it out!
Weak. Again. Again.
Stop it!
Again.
Now the Kratos we know is actually good with kids. Opposed to what most people think of him, he's not a ruthless bastard. But destroying a pantheon of gods will have its effects, and losing your humanity is only one of them. And that's not the only difference between him and his past self. He's less aggressive, a lot calmer, and a lot wiser than his past self. But still, he's broken. And that broken nature is rupturing through his relationship with his son. From the looks of it, we can say that Kratos might have been an absentee father and might have not bonded with his son. But an assumption like that is incomplete. Kratos is in a stage of regret and he's reflecting on himself. He has healed from his past self, but still it's not that much. And in this moment, Atreus serves as a beacon of hope to him. So, in other words, Atreus is helping Kratos to become human. And at the beginning of the story, Atreus isn't truly broken. He's barely made. He's full of love and compassion, and this is old memories for Kratos, because the compassionate, loving part of his life has been destroyed a long while ago. Even if Kratos thinks a very little about compassion, he seems to be eager to learn it, and Atreus is the one that brings change.
Actually, come look. Let me show you how to read this.
That is not
You've
necessary.
taught me so much. Let me teach you something.
Atreus.
Come on. You already speak it. Learning to read won't be that hard.
I know how to read, boy. Just not this tongue.
And as the story unravels, we see more and more of this conflicting nature in the world. And that's the next beacon of hope for Kratos and Atreus.
Quit your grinning. It's downright unsettling.
It's just nice to see you together. But now the rune on your brand looks different.
Impressive, but reforging something what broke.
I knew it. You two love each other.
Oh, cut it out, Princess. You're gonna get me all weak.
On the surface, this doesn't look like a big problem. It's a dispute between siblings, but the situation is dire than we could see. This is not a family feud. This is much worse than that. These two brothers are the craftsmen that made Thor's hammer, and with that hammer, Thor did the unspeakable. And it has put a massive amount of guilt on Brock and Sindri. They feel as if they were the reason for the deaths of the giants, and they both blame each other and have parted ways. It's a very complicated problem, and a situation like this is quite traumatizing. They might be loving brothers, but together they are poison. They put their heart and soul into creating a weapon that will cause the fall of the race of the giants. So it's no wonder that they have parted ways.
Uh-oh. Yeah. Boy.
Surrender. The All-Father demands it.
No.
Good.
This fight is mine, boy. Go.
And where do you think you're going? Oh no, brother. The little freak's got a bow. What are we gonna do?
In the other side of the coin, Magni and Morty have a similar yet different relationship. Now Brock and Sindri are not working together, but that's not because they detest each other. Magni and Morty on the other hand are working together, but that's not because they love each other. Of course, neither Atreus nor Kratos understands the problem. Even then, Atreus tries to bond them together, and that's just the compassionate nature of Atreus.
I knew it. You are Brock's brother. The other half of the brand's here.
The blue one is your brother.
Soon after, Kratos' past catches up to him. Until now, Kratos did everything possible to keep the truth hidden away from Atreus.
This is no ordinary illness. The boy's true nature, your true nature, fights within him.
It's nothing about privacy for him. He's ashamed and afraid of his godhood. He has first-hand experience of dealing with gods, and through that he knows that nearly every god is worse than you'd expect, and he's afraid that his son might be the very thing he hated. All this time, Kratos was teaching his son how to be more like him, but in order for his son to survive, he has to reveal the truth of godhood. After the revelation of his true nature, Atreus' compassionate loving qualities start to depreciate, and Kratos sees too much of himself on Atreus. Kindness and love changed into hatred and narcissism in a span of hours, and this is when the roles start to switch. This is a nightmare for Kratos, since his past caught up to him in the worst way possible. The unusual behavior of Atreus is becoming worse by the second, and if Atreus continues on this slippery slope, he might end up being one of them.
You will listen to me and not speak a word. I am your father, and you, boy, are not yourself.
But with his father's interference and with a good glimpse of his own actions, Atreus gets a closer look at the monster he had become. But in that moment, Atreus' catalytic nature affects the dwarf brothers. This is much more of a significant change than it seems. The dwarf brothers took the first steps to rekindle their love, and this was reassurance to Kratos. By now, he has changed Atreus into a kinder person, and he has seen a restoration of a barely salvageable relationship. and this has a huge effect on his mindset. At the start, he didn't have faith in gods, but now his opinions are changing bit by bit. It's giving him hope about his and his son's nature. And together they keep fixing their mistakes and made their relationship much more desirable. And to top it off, they get a good glimpse of what they would have become if they never fixed themselves.
There!
I had a feeling that hurting the big snake would bring the two of you out in the open. Do you have any idea at all, what you have cost me?
My boy.
Mother.
Balder and Freya had a relationship similar to Kratos and Atreus, a parent trying to protect their child and a child who's negatively affected by their parents' work. And this is when the relationship between Balder and Freya comes to an end. The horror of a broken relationship is brought in front of Kratos and Atreus. This extreme end is shown to them so that they could realize the culmination of a bad relationship. It presents itself as the darker side of a relationship, which is an example for Kratos and Atreus on exactly what not to do. If Kratos and Atreus fail to fix their relationship, their fate would be no different than this. Kratos would be in the same position as Freya and Atreus would be in the same position as Balder. This is the unfortunate ending to their bond, and it's through these experiences that Kratos and Atreus develop their characters, and specifically this very incident is the proof of their development. Unlike his past self, Kratos doesn't ignore problems that doesn't affect him. Without a doubt, Balder will turn to him after he's committed matricide, but the older Kratos will simply wait until that point, because it's just another can of worms waiting to be opened. But the newer Kratos proves that he is human after all, and gives a warning to Balder. And this right here is pure character development. Kratos is being merciful to his enemy. He knows that Balder will never listen to his word, and he could snap Balder with ease. After all, this is the same person who threatened him and his son. But he didn't. He was merciful. But as he cannot bear the regret of what he's about to see, he tries to change it, as if he learned the compassion of Atreus. And that right there is a person who mended their mistakes. That includes Atreus too. It could have been easy for him to stay put, just as his father commands, and this is the same Atreus that shot his own father. But at the end, Atreus shows his true colors and does a purely brave act. Kratos might have survived that punch even without Atreus' intervention, but it was about protecting his father when he was helpless. A few moments later, Atreus fights alongside Kratos in a very fluid manner. It's as if he mastered everything that Kratos taught him. And this is the truth about God of War. It's about a father and a son helping each other to fix their broken lives. It's about changing oneself for the greater good.